Have you seen any other textbook about the conflict resolution or not? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So this is the first textbook that I see for this class. I've never seen any other books. But this book is not too complicated.
No.
Yeah, because before I think I have a older version of this one, and I read that, and it's a little bit is easy to understand, easier than the other course, I guess.
Do you expect it? Did you expect to be more complicated before entering the
Yes.
course?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I choose this book at the beginning of this semester because the previous book was for 2016 and the DAC approval says at least at the highest rate, it should be between 2 years or 3 years. This book is for 2020. And I love it. It is very technical and very applicable book, not so complicated, and going only for the procedures, not about the theology, about the roots and other things, about the conflicts or about the interpersonal conflict resolution, only about the marketing and business related conflicts. Okay, today we will go for another here. Okay. Perfect. Remember that in the next 2 weeks, I think it will be, what is it, June 9th. After 2 weeks, week 6, we don't have any live session, and I will upload because I'm in the journey. I don't know accessibility to internet or not. So I will upload the course in the Moodle, and you will check the video for the week 6. And I am coming to Maryland, Louisiana. I hope it had a good weather.
Where to? Which city?
It is, this city is Germantown in the Maryland, Germantown, near Washington. They said it is near 20 minutes to Washington, far from Washington, 20 minutes. And before that, I will go to New York. Because of that, I am not certain about the accessibility to internet and about the time differences. So it's better to upload the recorded video before entering the course, before entering the week. So, such a good word I can see here, trust, T-U-R-T-R-U-S-T. The basic year of your age between the birthday and your first birthday for the first year, the major problem for any newborn is trust versus mistrust. It is the basic question of human being. First year, at the age of 1. For the first year, the major developmental question, cognitive developmental, sociocultural developmental, for a newborn is trust versus mistrust. At the first year, his or her question is, can I trust my mom or not? Also, it is not in the figure in the form of a sentence. It's a very sensitive. It's very based on the senses. A newborn child not thinking, feeling that, can I trust other people or not? Based on that, we have different models, different types of attachment theory, attachment style. secure and insecure, and dependent and independent. That's a very good. It's better to know about the different types of attachment styles based on the first, and after that until the year of age, or age of 8 or 9. It's good to know about the attachment styles. Based on your attachment style, your future relationships with other people, with your partner, with your children, with your siblings, with your co-workers, with your employees, anybody around yourself, the attachment style in the first years will predict, will give you a good prediction of your future thinking about the relationships. So the basic part is trust versus mistrust. Trust is not only a matter of business. Trust is not only a matter of society. Trust is the basic matter of every human life. Every human life, all his or her life. Trust versus mistrust. Please, after ending the class, go to internet and Google the phrase socio-cultural development by Erik Erikson. Socio-cultural, socio-psychological development by Erik Erikson for 8 stages of development, from coming to the world until the end of your life and until the death. 8 ages for your psychosocial development, for your psychological, social development, psychosocial development. In that theory, which is one of the most authoritative theories in developmental psychology, we can find 8 stages for lifespan development. The first stage is the conflict between trust versus mistrust. All the stages have a conflict. In that stage, you will resolve that conflict for one of the extremes. One extreme is extreme trust, and in the other end, you can find mistrust. And until the end, for example, now at the age between 20 to 40, it is the age of intimacy versus privacy, isolation. Do you prefer between the age of 20 to 40? Do you prefer to have a good intimate relationship with other people, for example, like your love partner, or no? You prefer to have an isolated life. So the major conflict between the age of 20 to age of 40 is something near or a little more or less than this age spectrum of age. The major conflict is intimacy versus isolation. Because of that, you can see in a very scientifically approved psychological approach to human development, you can see the first step for the first year of your life, the major conflict is trust versus mistrust. It's very important. If you cannot trust other people, sorry, you cannot do anything. If you are hyper trustable, you can act like a fool people, like a foolish. We want something average, something between these two extremes, completely trust and completely mistrust. So the major question is that, as a student of master degree, complementary higher education, the basic question is, how can we define trust, not only in our workplace, in our daily life, in our interpersonal life, in our social life, and other parts? How can we define trust? What is trust? Phoebe, how do you think about the definition of trust in your life as a lady, as a mother, as a girl, as a daughter, as a social woman? How do you think about the definition of concept of trust?
So for me, trust is very simple. It's like just I believe in your ability I believe in reliability of like of something, and let's say I have faith or hope in you. That's when I trust you.
What other word can you use instead of trust in your life?
Like believe in
Mm-hmm.
or have confidence in somebody, in
Confidence.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Hope,
Hope, confidence,
faith,
hope,
that have faith in something.
faith.
Mhm.
Is there anything
Ex
you
maybe also
consider? Do you
expectation.
consider any difference between faith and belief? What is the difference between faith and belief?
Mm,
Do you believe in God or do you have faith in God? What is the difference between faith and belief? Paya, Luisa, do you want to help Phoebe to complete her answer?
I feel like faith will be, it's like you have faith in God. Believe
No,
is
God
something
was an
more.
example. God was an example. Faith in your destiny, faith in your mother, or believe in your mother. The basic question is, what is your
Right.
personal operational definition of trust before entering the course as a special attitude trust?
Well,
When Payal
yeah, so
feel
trust
that
will be
yes, I can trust, for example, Luisa. What are the components of trust for Payal, for Phoebe, for Luisa, for Arash? What are the personal components you consider for definition of trust?
I feel like trust will also be like a synonym for credibility. Like you know the person, like you have past experience with them, and depending on the circumstances or the situation you both encounter and how the person reacts to it, so that builds up. Like let's say if when you want to order through Amazon, you know that you have the organization has credibility, like they have been years in there and the reviews and everything, like it's good. So as a person you have that conception, that thing in mind, so it comes with years and how we interact with the person also, and slowly by slowly you build trust, because
Mhm.
trust is the most important thing. Because without trust you cannot be friends with anyone, or even in your personal life. If you love someone, first you need to trust them, then you can
Yeah.
then so that
We
will be for
consider
me.
trust as a process, not as a outcome. You think we should build the trust?
it's part of the it's part of the process, but definitely it's going to be the most important thing that we
Yeah.
have.
Thank you. Teresa, how
It
do you
will be
think?
the core, like the root of any relationship or anything.
Yeah, yeah. For every type of important, significant relationship, it is called blind trust. Your trust should be blind. Why? Because after some level of trust, you don't have any evidence. It is only your heart, your feeling that dictate you that you should have trust. It is blind trust, blind faith, with no cognition, with no evidence. Before that, yes, you have, as you said, you have built your trust brick by brick, the wall of trust. And after some level, after some heights, there is no new brick. Only you feel that, yes, he, she, that country, that government, that religion, that God is trustable. Sometimes highly trustable, sometimes not trustable. Luisa, do you want to add something to your friend's definition of personal definition of trust?
So I would say I agree with them, and in addition, maybe also expectations towards the person, and expectations that they don't do anything against you, or there would be, I guess, except like fate again, maybe, or like hope that they don't turn against you.
Let me ask you a question. Please write your answer just now on your paper. Be ready with a pen or pencil and a paper. The question is only one word. Because of that, I want to write it. I'm waiting for Payal to come back with her paper. Okay, welcome, Payal. What is the first word associated to mind when you hear the word trust? Write it. Don't think about it. What is the first word associated to mind when you hear the voice trust? Write it. Don't think about it. The first word. Everything, write it. Phoebe, what's your word?
My word is hope.
Pale. I cannot see it.
So sorry, I was mute.
What's
Mine
that?
will be blindfold, like blindfold, like you can just with your eyes closed, you can trust a person. Okay.
And Luisa?
Believe what Phoebe said earlier.
Some people say mother. Some people say God. Some people, I am reporting the other words because it's a word association test. It's a very famous test and deep psychological test. You can go to internet and have a good word association test by Carl Gustav Jung, J-U-N-G. It is the oldest word association test. It's very good, very, very good, very authoritative, very validated test about your inner and hidden parts of your soul, of your mind, whatever do you want to call it. It's not important. Psyche, mind, soul, spirit, self, ego. Word association test. Some reports about the trust says, when I hear the word trust, the first word associated to me is God, mother, confident, expectation, righteous, and other things, and also some word you say. So I think now we are ready to enter a little more professional discussion about the dynamic of trust, not as a concept, but as a model of doing something. Okay, you see here that the dynamic of trust model was developed by author incorporating the work of Daryl Landau. To develop this model, a significant amount of research was conducted in the area of attribution theory, a cornerstone in understanding the dynamics of trust in human interaction. What do you know about the attribution theory? What's the meaning of attribution? Other words for attribution. It is very important to know this concept. Sorry, Luisa, all the conflicts you find interpersonal, major part of the conflicts is related to the different definition of one single word. Different definition of one single word. So if you want to be a good conflict manager in the future, one of the basic things that you should attend, you should have pay attention is about the common definition of the same word. It is very important. Because of that, many times in the class, I ask you about the definition. Luisa.
So about the theory, it is when you are looking who's to blame. So if you are doing a mistake or so, you're saying, okay, because it was of the situation or some like outer circumstances, but not necessarily because of you. But in regard to other people, you're more critical and say, okay, it's because of it's their mistake. It's not because of the situation or like outer circumstances. It is like their fault.
Attribution is about causality or not? It is a cause and effect. Do you consider attribution as a relationship between cause and effect or not?
I think it tries to, but it could also be wrong. So it tries to find the cause, like what is the cause for the conflict or the mistake. But you could be wrong by saying, okay, it was his fault, although he had nothing to do with it. So I would say it tries to, but it doesn't mean it's correct.
Yeah. Sometimes attribution is about the causality, sometimes about the correlation. What is the difference between causality and correlation? What's the meaning of correlation and difference between causality and correlation? What's correlation? In a statistic, in research method, in net language, what is correlation? When two events have a good correlation, what is the difference between correlation between two events or no causality effect or causality relationship between two events? What's the difference? Do you know the meaning of correlation or not? Correlation is means relativeness. It doesn't mean relationship based on the causality. For example, if you do something every time and after that it creates another things at the cause as the cause and effect, it is causality. Correlation is not about the causality relationship between two things, about the occurrence at the same time without any type of causality. For example, it is very interesting and very simple. When it is winter, many people get cold. And many people think that winter is the cause of get cold. Payal, say me, what is the cause of getting cold? Is it because of winter? Getting cold is not related to winter. It is related to a specific virus. The agent of getting cold is not winter, it's a specific virus. But that virus developed very sooner in winter. Winter is not the cause of getting cold. Winter is at the same time that winter, yes, with a high probability, you will get cold, yes. But the agent, the factor, the producer of getting cold is not winter, it's a specific virus. For example, like something like coronavirus. It is very important to pay attention to these details because of it is analysis. It is something that you call it analysis. Because of that, you are different from the traditional businessman or businesswoman without any academic education. Because of these details, these specific, very, very small differences, which have a very, very great impact, very great impact. Because of that, we say in attribution theory, sometimes we are talking about causality, sometimes we are talking about correlation, but correlation is not so important. One of the greatest things we will talk about it in the attribution theory is fundamental attribution error. Fundamental attribution error, when you think that the cause of something is not related to the environment that he or she is experiencing something. For example, you are in an airport and someone come to you and beg you for a little money. And you will give him or her, for example, $10. And we will ask other people that, how do you think about this gentleman or lady? Is he or she a generous man or woman or no? Because in the airport, he doesn't want that other people think about him or her, that he is not a good man or a good woman. Many people in Western culture say, no, it is not related to the environment. It is because of internal personality trait, but it is false. It is not true. Because of that, it is called fundamental attribution error. It is an error attribution. What does it mean, attribution? Your error about thinking of the cause of this behavior. Western culture says, yes, it is because of his or her personality trait. But Eastern people, which is true than this culture in this topic, research shows that many people have such a behavior only because of the environment. If they were in a dark street, they didn't give anything to that. For example, someone who has come for big something, nothing. But because in the airport and many people are looking at him or her, yes, he or she says, okay, it's for you, $10. It is fundamental attribution error. In the decision making in an organization, attributional theory is very important. When you want to summarize different aspects of a decision, you see that many people, for example, mid-level managers are talking about the causality, not about the correlation. And they think, yes, absolutely, it is because of that, B because of A. And they think it is causality. But if you have a careful attention in this relationship, you find that, yes, they are at the same time at one position, but it is not the relationship causality, it's the correlation. When it is not causality, you can delete some component and keep the second one. If it is not causality, it is causality, you have A, after that B. If you want to delete A, after that you will delete B, you will miss B. But if it is not about the causality, it is a correlation, yes, you can modify or sometimes delete option A, why not? It is only at the same time. It is very important. Don't forget the example of getting cold and winter. And you should have such a sharp mind in analysis. Except of that, you are something like, for example, very experienced woman or man who can work as an experienced businessman or businesswoman, not an experienced, hyper experienced, educated, higher educated. It is only like other people. Good experience, not good knowledge, good wisdom, something more than knowledge. But you are paying money and you are paying, say, you are using your time for giving, for gaining something different in your mindset. One of the core issues in conflict resolution between parties is the issue of trust. We often hear the phrase, I don't trust you, or I don't trust them, when we manage conflict. Trust or lack of it can be a significant barrier to parties finding a resolution to an issue. Indeed, it can prevent the parties from wanting to talk. When I don't have any trust to you, I don't want to talk to you. Why I should talk to you? Why? You are not trustable for me. What is the object and subject of our discussion? On the other side of the coin, trust is a unique resource, you see. In one part, it is a significant barrier. When there is no trust or the level of trust is not so high, it is very lower trust level. And at the other side, it is the unique resource. In that, trust is expanded rather than depleted, the more it is used. Trust is one of the least understood dynamics in human relationships. Why? What does it mean? What's the meaning of this sentence? Trust is one of the least understood dynamics in human relationship. You see, I think in the long history of humankind, we can find the problem of trust. For example, you know that Christmas and the story of Jesus Christ, it is about betrayal, one of his followers, and about the mistrust. It is, I think, his name was Yahweh, something like it. Yahweh was one of the followers that says to the king that where is Jesus Christ? And after that, we have the crescent and other things related to Jesus Christ. It is the story of trust versus mistrust. Can I trust you, or I cannot trust you, or I should not trust you? I don't have to trust you. It is different parts. In business, I remember when in my country there was a relatively long war, near 8 years. In that time, I worked with a businessman in the market of weapon market, gun market, and also in that part of world, in Middle East, it is very hot market because you can find every day new wars in different parts of Middle East. In that time, he showed me a contract that it was not a formal contract from one of the countries in Europe. It is the price of trust. That country, that factory, weapon factory, says to this gentleman, to this businessman, that I want to buy weapon to your country. Perfect. You swear, you say that you will guarantee the government payment. One side was a government as a buyer for weapons. Another side was a factory as a seller of weapons. A government and a very, very trustable businessman. That factory says to businessman that you say, you guarantee that the government will pay the cost of weapons, we will buy them. So one trustable businessman was more accreditable, more authoritative than a government. It is the price of trust. For example, you go to bank, for example, for international business, you have some processes like LC, letter of credit. Letter of credit, your LC, the basic part, when you want to have some international business, export and import, you should have LC. The bank says to the buyer and sellers that how much you can sell or buy. It is letter of credit. What does it mean, LC or letter of credit? Letter of credit shows that how trustable, financially, how trustable you are. Your company, yourself, is your personality. It is about you and anything related to you. So if you have a good trust, why in different aspects, sometimes, not always, why family job is very good? Because family job is basically based on trust. Not because of, I think it is the family job. If I cannot trust my son, finally after my death, it will be for my son. It is not a matter of trust. It's a matter of inheriting something else, legacy. I think, yes, he is my son. She is my daughter. Why not? We can have some good trust to each other. But in the real world, outside of family, and also in many cases inside the families, even inside the families, we cannot find a higher level of trust. I think in the next semesters, you will have some courses about job matching assessment tools. One of them is DISC, D-I-S-C, and I is for influencer in DISC, influencer. And influencer people are highly highly trustable people. They trust other people in a high level. And you see that they are very, very influencing other people. Why? Because they trust other people. They are not stupid. They are not foolish. They are so smart. Influencing people are very smart. Why trust? I trust you. We have two choices. At the best scenario, you accept my trust. Okay, I win the game. Why not? With the lowest price, I gain something which is very expensive, your trust. It is very expensive. At the other side, if you are not trustable and I am wrong, very, very soon, you show that you are not trustable. Okay, with the lowest cost, I understand that, yes, I should delete this, for example, coworker from my complex, from my organization. But it is a type of personality. When you are an influencer, if you are a dominant person, You cannot trust. If you are a supportive person, you cannot trust. If you are an analytical person, you are not absolutely trust. Accountant cannot trust other people because they should analyze and analyze and analyze penny by penny, cent by cent, dollar by dollar. They are accountants. It is a type of job and type of personality. We often think of trust as single thing, a single measure, a single component, when this is penalty not to the case. There are a variety of definition and trust approach to subject from different angles, from a psychological view to a personality view to a behavior view. For our purposes, we look at functional definition or operational definition of trust to help us understanding dynamic surrounding it. So what is trust in our textbook and in our job as businessman or businesswoman, as marketer, as IT managers, everything related to the market? Trust is the level of positive expectations we have about another person's motives and intention toward us when we are in a situation of risk. Say me the keywords in this definition. Trust is the level of positive expectation we have about another person's motives and intention toward us when we are in a situation of risk. Kyle, what are the keywords in this definition of trust?
Motives, intentions, and risk.
Perfect.
You said the keyword.
Risk, intention, other things more important. Phoebe, Luisa, you can help Payal to answer. What are the keywords in the definition of trust?
Expectation.
What Paya said.
Again, I cannot hear you.
What Paya said, the keywords.
Yes, keywords in the trust, definition of trust. One of them is risk, yes, but not the best keyword.
How about expectation?
Expectation. And something more than expectation is positive.
Positive.
The nature of trust is positive. The nature. In every aspect of your life. When you trust, you are positive. Because of that, sometimes people say to stupid people that they are optimistic. Also, it is wrong. It is not true. Some people say that other people, stupid people, are optimistic. Optimism is not something like being stupid. Optimism is concentration on the positive part of the problem, on the half full of the glass. Concentration is positivism or optimism. Concentration of the half empty is pessimism. So the major word in trust is have a calm heart, serenity, inner peace, trust, positive expectation. Other thing is that in organization is about risk. When I trust you, I am certain, I'm sure that you will help me when I am at a risk situation. Because of that, I trust you. So it has two components. One, risk. Two, in the motives and intention. What is risk? In a course so-called Engineering Economy, and it is the title of a course, Engineering Economy, and in the course of risk study, game theory, you can find the concept of risk study and risk ability, and you should know about it. As a manager, you should know about how to analyze the risk. If you cannot analyze the risk, you are not a good manager. You are not a good decision maker. The greatest part of decision making is knowing, handling, predicting the risk. It is the major part of any type of decision making. If you want to marry another guy, okay, it's a decision. How do you think about the future? If you think, okay, future is full of quality time, happy time, do you want to have a make a decision? Such a good guy. But in reality, it is not something like that. You want to know about the risk factors, about the impact factors in your future that will destroy your good feeling. Because of that, you should have a good risk study about your relationship, about that personality, about the future of this relationship, about even your matching with other, with, for example, that boy. That yes, I'm a good girl and he's a good boy. Why not? But are we matched together? We don't have nothing so-called good family or bad family, efficient family or inefficient family. We have only two types of family: matched family and mismatched family. Sometimes you think privately every members of the family are good. That lady, that gentleman, that boy, that daughter, everybody is good when they are private. But together, wow, it is a chaotic family. So we don't have nothing so-called good family or bad family. We have matched family and mismatched family. Family as one of the major source of decision making. You learn how to make a decision for the rest of your life with the procedures parents and you will have practiced in your family duration. After that, you go to society based on those elements of making decision. You know how you will have some decisions in the future. Okay, because of that, the first components of risk of decision making is about risk study. Risk is a key element of trust. This in the sense that we have to take risk. Let me okay, small or large, to explore, test, and eventually build trust without actually relying on someone, without taking a small risk with them. We can never really know if we can trust them. Also, it is very simple. A significant question, however, is this: given a choice, why would anyone ever take such a risk? In a given choice, in a specific choice, in a specific situation, why would anyone ever take such a risk? The answer is simple. It is the only way to get what we want. There is no other way to achieve your goals. If there was nothing we ever needed from one another, there would be no need for trust in the first place. Because of our needs, psychological needs, biological needs, financial needs, security needs, social needs, sometimes even spiritual needs or morality needs. Because of needs at first place, at the first time, we should have some trust for other people. Because for meeting our needs, it is the basic parts of any type of motivation. We have six, yes, we have six models for motivation in human being. The number six, the last model, is need-based motivation, which has two types of need-based motivation. One, Maslow hierarchy of needs is a model for how can you find the needs, how can you find the motivation, the direction and energy for something you should do based upon your needs. And second one is self-regulation theory, which says that you have some motivation, you have some direction and energy for action in the future, and also from now to the future. It is the scientific, simple definition of motivation. Motivation creates direct direction, guide, and energy in yourself for doing something which is good or favorable for you. This is the very, very simple definition of motivation. And in self-regulation theory, self-determination theory, we are talking about the competency and autonomy, the component of self-determination. So I don't want to talk about the motivation theory here, but meeting our needs is the basic motivator of every human action. It's the basic. It is not so higher, I know, but it is the basic. From your instinct, for drive reduction, for arousal, For incentives, external valued goals, valued external goals, it is incentives. And for your need, and for gaining something good or bad for you. It is the different theories toward motivation. Or cognitive, for example, your beliefs, your thought, your belief system, how do you think, your rationality, your mindset, all are the cognitive approach to motivation. So when you want to take a risk, when you want to make a decision, you should accept some level of risk taking. And for that, you should evaluate the risk study and risk ability. And the reality, of course, is the opposite. The more interdependent we are, whether at work or in our personal lives, the more we rely on others because interdependent. And the more risk we must take. If you are interdependent to other people, sorry, you are more risky rather than other people who are very independent. And the level of trust we have in any given situation or the people involved affect the size of the risk we are willing to take and how frequently we will take those risks. Risk is integral to trust at all levels. Please remember this sentence. Risk is integral to trust at all levels. Whenever you want to create trust, you should accept risk with the knowledge of risk study, with the knowledge of riskability. Whenever there is no trust without any risk. Because of that, there are many people with good money in their bank account and with good capability and good knowledge about the market, they cannot be so good businessman or businesswoman. The major part is about risk. Why? Because if you cannot have a good risk on your investment, rational risk, with a rational riskability degree, you cannot go to the new market. So it's a store. It is not a business. It's something only import and export in the traditional model. And whenever you want to enter a new market, you should have some trust. And trust is at all the level is integrated with risk. Okay. There's a word here, so-called risk tolerance. What does it mean, risk tolerance? What does it mean, risk
How
tolerance?
much you're willing to risk, and it always depends if it's worth it for you or not. So if you think you get a great gain, you might be willing to take a bigger risk. But if it seems too dangerous, then your risk tolerance might be very low, and you might not do it.
You consider risk equal to danger? What's the
I
difference?
guess not always, but
risk and
sometimes.
danger.
Did you say what's the difference?
The difference between risk and danger. Is there any difference between risk and danger or not? They are the same.
Risk doesn't have to be negative. So danger I would associate with being something negative or painful, hurtful. But risk can be positive.
Not always positive.
No, not always, but I mean, it's like it can be. So I would say the other one is danger always sounds negative to me.
Yeah.
But
harming to self and others, hazardous, dangerous. But risky, at first, it is not absolutely always negative at the first definition. And second part is related to risk study. Risk is about the probability, about rolling the ace. Okay, why not? you can have some good prediction of the risk. Also, you have some good prediction about the dangers, I know. But as you said, in the nature of the danger, you can find some levels of harming to self and others. It's dangerous. You cannot say every time we are experiencing some types of trust, we are experiencing sometimes danger. Danger is a feature, is a naturalistic feature of the positions, but risk is not naturalistic. Risk is related to the probabilities and possibilities. Risk is a matter of mathematics, a matter of calculation. Danger is not a matter of calculation. You can work with risk. For example, do you have any experience in a stock market trading? Have you done stock market trading? Okay. Payal, do you know about the stock market trading? Okay. In a stock market trading, you have two types of analysis: technical analysis and fundamental analysis. Fundamental analysis is related to news. For example, when they want to announce who is the new president of US, it's the time nobody have any type of trade, no open trade. Why? Because fundamental. It is a new news. The same president, the new president, Democrat president, or Republican president, it is news. Or between, for example, 10 days, 10 last days of December and 2 weeks, two first week of January. It is a imbalanced market. It is fundamental. But technical is something else. You have some tools for analyzing the graphs and saying where is the buyer market, what time is the seller market, what is the uptrend, what is the downtrend. These are the concepts that you can find in stock market trading. It is risky. Yes, it is risky. Why? Many people, many people at all don't like to go to cryptocurrency market. Why? Because there is no technical analysis. It is like gambling.
Yeah.
Many professional traders at all don't like go to cryptocurrency market. Why? Because there is no analysis in this market. Elon Musk says, from tomorrow, we will sell our Tesla by Bitcoin. Bitcoin from 3,000, 30,000 to 50,000. And after 1 week, no, it is not good for us to work with Bitcoin. Again, come down, downtrend. It is not a market. It is something like gambling. If Payal has the, also I don't have any experience in trading, but I know the psychology of trading. I know that many people have a good sense of ambiguity tolerance, risk tolerance in stock market. If you don't have any good risk tolerance in the stock market, you will have a heart attack after 1 year. It's not good for you. Go for another. For example, you will be a good person for entrepreneur, not as a stock market trader. But they have some good tools, many tools for analyzing. And for example, some point, at this point, close my profit, it is take profit, or some points for stop my loss, it is a stop loss. And between these, okay, I have trading. I talked about the stock market trading because I wanted to show you what is the operational definition between risk and danger. The stock market is risky. Cryptocurrency market is dangerous. When you don't have any prediction of your risk, it is not risky, it is dangerous. If you have prediction, you can calculate your risk, it is risk. You have risk study, you can find riskability degree and other things. If you don't have anything, one night you will be rich and the next night you will be poor. Because of that, many people don't like to in the long term don't like it. So for 1 week or 2 weeks, okay, for 1 week or 2 weeks, you will go to Las Vegas and have a good gamble, maybe winner, maybe all of the time, also most of the time loser. It's just something like that. Until now, maybe after 1 year, yes, some people will be a very professional trader, for example, in cryptocurrency. But in these, for example, last 3 months, wow, it is not a market. It is something like lighting a candle. Sometimes it is very, very light, and sometimes it is okay. It is the major part and the major concept of risk tolerance in markets. Attribution to self and attribution to others. It is very simple. In the concepts, it is very simple. Attribution to self and attribution to others. Who is the responsible? Can I consider and should I consider myself as a responsible for something? Or should I consider you and other people as a responsible and accountable for something? It is who is this responsible is based on the attribution. Attribution to self. We have, I said it before to you also, we have between 7 to 10 cognitive distortion. Cognitive distortion or mind errors are the errors in your thinking, in the distortion in your thinking that create many problems in your mind, in your decision making. For example, overgeneralization or mind reading and catastrophization, all are mind error or cognitive distortions. One of the most important and hazardous cognitive distortions is over responsibility. Over responsibility means that you accept accountability and responsibility for everything in your life and around yourself. Something is not related to you, but you say, yes, I should have done something about it. And I ask you, what could you do? Nothing. So why do you think you should have done something about it? I should try it. It is over responsibility. Please pay attention to your over responsibility, because over responsibility is sometimes seen more in female than male, especially in some social roles like mother. Mothers sometimes are over responsible rather than fathers. Why? They think everything in her son or her daughter's life is related to them. They are over responsible. Okay, this is a good boy or a good girl and has a course of maturation, course of puberty, course of maturity, and going from childhood to adolescence to adolescence to adulthood to midlife to old age. And after that, the game is over. It's a course of life. Some parts you are responsible, you are effective. Sometimes the peer group, society, himself or herself is more important than you. But many mothers think that, no, I am responsible for everything. When you see yourself as responsible for everything, it is not good, not for you, not for your health, not for your family, not for your organization, not for your society. Because honestly, you cannot be responsible for everything. The only one can be responsible if you can find him or her, talk to him or her, is God. Except of that, we are human beings. We are responsible, but not over responsible. So attribution to self is distant. At the other side is attribution to others. Nothing is related to me. It's none of my business, always. I say, it's your decision. Yes, it was my decision, but it is none of my business. When others are involved with or cause a negative event. Psychologists have demonstrated this tendency as being so strong that they refer to this as fundamental attribution error. We talked about it, combined with self-serving or egocentric bias. The research has found this bias to be present and pronounced in virtually all the studies done on how we attribute fault or blame. This self-serving bias has a profound effect on trust. It means that in many situations, negative events are attributed in a way that exaggerate the wrong, invent bad intention, blames the other party, creates feeling of betrayal, and makes the conflict deeply personal. It is also another type of cognitive distortion is personalization. In personalization, you attribute everything to yourself. You said, yes, they are talking about me. It is my family. It is my nationality. It is my country. I and my are the most important words in the personalization as a cognitive distortion. All of this happens because of the assumption driven by our own self-serving bias and not necessarily because of what is true. Okay. In each chapter, we have some graphs and some concentration on the diagnosis and on the other parts of doing something. Okay. What attribution theory highlights is that there is a whole range of attributions that people are capable of making in a given situation, of it with a bias toward blaming others rather than oneself. A question: what is the positive aspect of self-blaming? Do you consider any positive aspect, positive usage for self-blaming or not? Phoebe, you are so silent today. Why?
You said self-blaming?
Self-blaming. Everybody thinks that self-blaming is not good. I know. As a psychologist, I know. But for everything in your life, for every aspect of your life, there are some good, some positive usage. What is the positive usage of self-blaming?
That you start with yourself and not with somebody else. So actually the opposite of the attribution theory, I would think. So, so you consider, because usually we are like, okay, it's the other person's fault or so, but in this case, we try to at ourselves first and see if we did the mistake before blaming somebody else or the situation. So like trying.
Not doing the mistake.
Okay. And Payal?
Yeah, as Luisa said, in a way, it's like stopping ourselves not doing the mistake again. If we go through about it, like, what was wrong, what was not, maybe next time we'll be more careful.
Phoebe, how do you think about the positive aspects of self-blaming? Do you consider any positive aspect for self-blaming or not? You think it is absolutely negative?
I think that's a small part of positive meaning, because when you think about a situation and then you think about yourself first, then you can avoid blaming other people for that result. Like for avoiding misunderstood or between people, I guess.
Yeah, something like this. As your book says, from the practitioner's point of view, the dynamics of trust model will help diagnose the underlying attribution that are perpetuating a conflict, underlying assumptions. So when you are self-blaming, the first approach is that I blame myself for something, also it is related to me, but blaming doesn't work for me. Blaming weakens everybody. But sometimes you have a great picture of yourself. It is called grandiosity or narcissistic. If you are narcissistic personality, if you have narcissistic personality, it is very good for you to have a lower degree of self-blaming. It makes some balance between self-blaming and narcissism. But sorry, when you are a narcissistic person, you cannot find any error in yourself. Also, other people can find in yourself. If you come to me to resolve your conflict with yourself and with others as a narcissistic personality, the first question is that what other people say about you. Those are the negative points of you. When you are narcissistic, not for everybody. When you think that I am always right, at first I ask you what your mother, father, partner, spouse say about you. What situations they say that, sorry, you are a good girl, you are a good wife, you are a good daughter, but you are not right. It's something different. To be good person is different from to be right person. Right person is something different. Sometimes bad persons in some situations also, it is not so normal. In some situations, bad persons are right persons because the complex of the other components is not so good. If you are going to a fight, the right person is a good killer and a killer is not a good man. But you are going to fight. In fight, a negative quality, something like killing other people, is a right quality, not a good quality. It's a right quality. It is appropriate with fighting. If you want to go to fight, you should be a good killer. Except of that, you will be killed. So please pay attention. Sometimes we are good people, but we are not matched people. We are not right people. Because of that, in the history of success, they say right place, right time, right person. Not good place, good time, good person. Right place, right time, right person, appropriate person. It is something different. So for self-blaming, we can find some positive aspects. For example, for grandiose people, for narcissistic people, self-blaming is good. Create some level of balance in their personality. You see here, again, situation attribution, intrinsic nature attribution, and intentional or hostile attribution. And from triggering event to decreasing level of trust. There is a model in psychopathology about how can we be a person with mental illness. It's a model. It is called the model of ABC. The model of ABC by, I think, the name of the founder is Albert Ellis. Albert Ellis died about, I think, 2013, 2007. Albert Ellis has a good model about mental processes in mental disorders, so-called ABC model. A for activating events, B for belief system, and C for consequences. Sorry. ABC, A for activating system or activating or trigger activating system or trigger point. And after that is belief system. And finally, consequences. How we can be a person with mental disorder when we have a wrong belief system. The same activating points or trigger points, the same. For different belief system, lead to different consequences, especially emotional consequences. Especially emotional consequences. Your emotions are based on your belief system. You see here, triggering event and decreasing level of trust. In situation attribution, minimum decrease of trust in situation. In intrinsic nature attribution, I said that it is because of his or her nature. And when I say no, it is intentional. He or she wanted to harm me, to create damage to me. It is called intentional with the highest decreasing level of trust. Your trust will destroy. If you think, for example, somebody around you has some intentional harming to you, you will lose your trust. Situation attribution, we say about it. When we attribute the cause of a conflict or problem to the situation, as opposed to a person, we are saying that the cause was due to the factors behind the control or intention of the person involved. The intentions were good, they tried their best, and the outcome was not desired by anyone. It is situation. After that, it is some, for example, circumstances outside the person's control caused the problem or forced the person into doing what they did. We are talking about the situations that finally lead to decreasing the trust as the weakest cause of decreasing trust. Situation is the weakest, not so strong. If you think I cannot trust him or her only because of the situation, it is good. Why? Because you think that if the situation is changed, my trust level will be changed. It is related to situation. Their lack of skill or knowledge or lack of accurate information caused the problem. It is not their fault. They deserve very little blame, if any. The person did their best in spite of lacking necessary information, knowledge, or skill. The problem they cause is not indicative for their nature or character. And the person's intention were good, regardless of the outcome. He was a good boy, good guy, good daughter, but the outcome was not so good. Intention is good. Especially in religious people, you can find something like it. And the person's actions were not personal. You cannot consider any personalization. This type of attribution results in relatively low levels of blame. You don't consider other people in the situation of blaming. It is related to situation. Yes, I don't want this result. I don't want this outcome. And he or she had some wrong action, some wrong operation, some wrong behavior that finally leads to this unwanted outcome, undesirable outcome. I cannot trust to him, not as a personality, not as an intention, only as a situation. We don't talk about people. We talk about the situation of people. The person's actions were not personal. Maintaining higher levels of trust and give a party a strong sense that this problem can be prevented in the future if it's probably addressed. It is when we consider the situation as the causes of mistrust, as the causes of undesired outcome. The second part is about intrinsic nature attribution.
Ayar says she has problems with her laptop and wanted to let you know.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, thank you. File again here. The second part also is not personal. Yes, we know it is not personal, but it is intrinsic nature. It is not by intention, but it is about the nature, something worse than situational and something better than hostile or intentional. This attribution can result in a wide range of blame, from low to very high. Essentially, it involves one party attributing the cause of the conflict to the intrinsic nature of the other party. I say that you are a bad guy, you are a bad daughter. Not about the intention, about the nature, about the innate part. more reduction, more decrease in trust level, more blame. Why? I said, it is not about the situation, it is about your nature. In another situation, I will see again these blamable behaviors from you. Why? Because it is your nature. You cannot change your nature. It may be because they are shy. It may be because their culture or traditions. It may be that past experiences or core values have strongly affected them. Also, these are some professional words. For example, if you want to know about the core values, you can go to internet and say about the core values in psychotherapy. You find very, very interesting evidence-based facts about the core values. Core value is a very professional phrase in psychotherapy. It may be that they simply don't pay attention to other people. They are very hyper selfish. But in all cases, the issue is blamed on the other person's innate character or nature rather than to conscious, intentional behavior. It is personal, but not intentional. It is related to this person, but it is not under control because it is his or her nature. In my country, there is a proverb about the scorpion that says, if scorpion bite you, it is not because of intention. It is because of nature, because it is scorpion. Also, it's very good proverb in Farsi language. But the meaning is, yes, I will harm you. I will damage you, but not because of my intention, because of my nature, because I'm a lion, I'm a tiger, I'm a wild animal. It is not about intention. Also, I will harm you, I know. But sorry, it's my nature. As we will damage many animals, not only because of beauty and other things, because one part of human being is about fight and killing other animals. It is nature sometimes, and sometimes it is intentional. So note that it is very important that in this part, it is personal, related to that person, but not intentional. Naturalistic personal, intentional personal. And some believes that this type of attribution tends to generate R. The person caused the harm because of the intrinsic qualities, personality, culture, values, past experience. The person's intrinsic nature can be seen as a benign or dangerous. Sometimes it is benign. It's not positive, but it is benign. The person's actions are less personal and likely not intentional. When we are talking in law, in legislations, when you are talking about responsibility, you are talking about intention. It is more important to be intentional to do something, not only to do something. Yes, you do something because of your nature. It is conscious, relatively conscious, not completely conscious. It is subconscious. The little part is unconscious, major part is conscious, but not intentional. You do what you are doing, but you cannot control it. It is something like mental disorder. You do what you are doing, but you cannot control it. When parties make an intrinsic nature attribution, it's usually more personal than the situation attribution, but it's typically less personal than an intentional attribution. We talked about it. How much blame we assign will be based on our assessment of how dangerous these intrinsic qualities. It is not about blaming related to the responsibility or accountability. It is related to the degree of danger we have received during their intrinsic damage they have done for me or for my society or for other people. It is related to the level of danger, not level of intention. In many cases, an intrinsic nature attributes allows significant levels of trust to remain. Why? Most often in parts of their relationship unrelated to the conflict. In the other areas, which are not related to the area of conflict, we maintain our trust because we say he or she is a good person. But one part of intrinsic nature, not extrinsic nature, is not so good. In that part, yes, take care. He or she can be hazardous, can be dangerous. But in other areas of life, why not? And the third part and the final part is about intentional attribution or hostile attribution. This is the most destructive form of attribution in that it lays complete blame on that party. It characterizes their actions as intentionally causing harm, either because of personal hostility or because they stood to gain in some way from harm they caused it. It assumes that the or other person know what damage their actions would cause and proceeded anyway. It assumes intentional dishonesty, malice, and hostility. We are talking about a plan. We are talking about an intention. We are talking about a bias for harming other people. It is not about the nature. It is not about the situation. It is completely personal, completely accountable, completely responsible. It's not a good situation. It's not a bad nature. It is intentional. It is hostility. I want to harm you. I should be responsible. I should be accountable. So the third part is the most dangerous, most hazardous, and most intentional. Some believes that this type of attribution tends to generate R. The person other people think about that person, that the person intentionally caused the harm for personal gain or advantage at first, in disbelief that, yes, he or she had done this because of the advantages, because of gaining some profit. And the person is a bad person. You can see judgment in other people in that position. When you are or other people are in the position of intentionally harmful for other people, one of the basic things that you can see in other people that they are judging you. Say good people or bad people. It is value-based cognition. Judgment is the value-based cognition. When I am judging somebody or some situations, when I'm talking about their values, it is good or it is bad. It is the final outcome of judgment. The person is a bad person, that is morally deficient, unethical, and etc. The actions were aimed personally and directly at us. It is something like political problems between different countries. You cannot say, sorry, it was not, I didn't know what I am doing, and I had some, for example, bomb against you in your country. It is not about the situation. And also it is about your intrinsic nature. Why? Because there's anything so-called nature in a country or in a nation. It is completely, maybe it is out of the plan, yes, but it is intentional. A country as a person, a country as a unit. You can consider also 8 billion people all around the world, and also, for example, near 200 countries as units, complicated, together, integrated unit. This attribution results in very high level of blame, eliminates trust, and brings a strong sense that any further dealings with this party are too risky and dangerous. It is something that destroyed marriage. After that, you will never go to that marriage again. Why? Because your prediction is too dangerous to coming back to this marriage. He or she intentionally is harmful, including any attempts at resolution. When you are at the situation of attributing errors to the intentions, honestly, there is no way for resolving the conflict. Okay, go to the break, and after 15 minutes, at the time of 7:15, come back again. And at the first, we will have a good presentation. Who is the responsible for today's presentation? Payal, it's your time. Okay. 7:15, we will hear from you. You are muted.
Because she told us that her laptop has some problem. So
Okay.
yeah.
For the next session, no problem. Can you do it next session? Okay, no problem. Also, you can enter the session with your mobile and use your mobile as a voice and your laptop as sharing. But if it is difficult for you, you try it. Can you enter the session with your mobile and use your mobile for voice and your laptop for video? But if it is so hard for you, you can present next session, okay? You decide, and after the breaking time, you let me know about your decisions. Okay, welcome. Okay, welcome again. In the second part of the session, we want to talk about the relationship between the attributional style and the blaming produced by this style. More personal attribution you create, more blaming you create. If you think that, yes, the harm is related to his or her intention, you have many blames. Even about yourself, you think, yes, it is my intentional fault. I wanted to harm him or her. You will experience a higher degree of self-blaming. But if you think, honestly, I didn't want to create any damage to himself or herself, but it was out of my intention, out of my control. I am responsible, but I cannot blame myself. Why? Because there was no intentional, conscious intention. Sometimes it is related to my fault, sometimes human error. Sometimes, for example, in medicine, you have heard the word medical error. Medical error, it means that the physician or the nurse didn't have any conscious intention, for example, to lead the patient to death. But because of some errors in medicine, in procedures, the patient was dead. It is fault, it is error, but it is not intentional. The legal punishment, the social judgment, the personal blaming is very, very different when you have a conscious intention or not. You have done something wrong, okay, and you have created some damage, but it is not intention. So please pay attention because you are entering a little more difficult situations of conflict. It is not very simple, very easy to resolve these conflicts. You should pay attention some deeper part of the problems, of the conflicts, especially in non-organizational conflicts. When you see that some conflicts are always you can find in a family, in a society, in a community, in a government. Repeat again, repeat again, repeat again. And you see that why they cannot resolve the conflict, because it is not about the rationality behind the conflict. It is not about the logic behind the conflict. It is about the emotional aspects of the conflict. For example, blaming is an emotion. Yes, the content of blaming is rational. The content of blaming is from your belief system, from your cognition, from rationality. But the sense of blaming is a matter of sense, it's a matter of feeling, it's an emotion. And when you have some silent emotions at the back of your mind, at the back of your logic, at the back of your rationality, you cannot find the major error in your operation. But you see that you work harder and harder and harder and gain less and less and less. You work on the conflict, you go to the many sessions to discussion about the conflict, all 9 models of conflict resolution that you have learned in this, for example, course from me and by this book, but you see nothing will be changed. Why? Because people don't want to change. Why? Because they have bad emotion about the change. Why? Because they are involving and engaging and struggling and suggesting and talking with themselves. It is the worst war in the world. War with yourself, self-struggle, self-fight, self-talking, and most important of all of them is self-blaming. So blaming is a major barrier in resolving the deep conflicts. Is a major barrier. It is very important to know what situation we have and predict what level of blaming we can hear or there is, but we cannot hear. There's a strong correlation. We talked about the correlation at the first moments of the session. There's a strong correlation between the type of attribution of situation, attribution interesting nature, or attribution of intentional attribution we make, and the laying of blame. We have three types of attribution: situation attribution, interesting nature attribution, intentional attribution. In general, the situation attribution minimizes the laying of blame because I think, yes, you have done something wrong, but it is not related to you. It is related to the situation. The minimum blaming, not minimizing the harm, only minimizing blaming on the other party and depersonalize the situation. It is not personalized. The intrinsic attribution causes a low to moderate level of blame along with a moderate amount of taking it personally. And the intentional attribution lays a significant amount of blame that feels highly personal. It's your intentional fault. It's your intentional error. It's your intentional penalty and punishment also. You see the curve here. It is triggering event, decreasing level of trust, constructive, no blame, strong trust. It is situation attribution, impersonal, completely impersonal. Positive, very low blame, moderate trust, intrinsic attribution, low to moderate personal. In situation attribution, you see that the cause of the problem is situation. It is not personal. And negative or evil, it is moderate blame, low trust, and absolute blame and no trust. From triggering event to degree of blame. It's very good curve that in only one picture you can find the major concepts about the correlation between the attribution object and level of blaming. Always level of blaming is in a position of trust. Level of trust and blame has in different directions. More trust, lower blame. More blame, lower trust. It is in the oppositional direction, not the same direction. And between the personalization and blame is the direct correlation. More personalization, more blame. More you think that, yes, it is your personal intention. It is your personal conscious intention. You think that you should be blamed or about yourself. You say that, yes, it was my conscious intentional fault. I wanted to do it, something wrong. You have a bad sense of guilt feeling. And after that, you will experience sense of blaming or self-blaming. Because of that, in this curve, you see that in two positions, situation attribution, it is constructive and positive, neutral and negative, and the worst scenario is about evil, that absolute blame and no trust at all. You see here again how attribution forms, motives, and intentions cannot be seen. They can only be inferred from our interpretation of the other party's behavior. It is about your interpretation. It is about your belief system. One of those seven cognitive distortion, I talked about them, is emotional reasoning, in opposite of rational reasoning or logical reasoning. Emotional reasoning. Emotional reasoning. What is emotional reasoning? Reasoning is the logical association between different components to find the final conclusion. It is reasoning. So in reasoning, you have conclusion, yes. In reasoning, you have final conclusion and logical association, yes. In logical reasoning, in opposition of emotional, it is logical reasoning. In emotional reasoning, the unit that can connect other components together is your emotions, your anger, your fear, your sadness, your anxiety, your stress, or positive points, your happiness, your inner peace, your serenity, and other your joy, your pleasure. These are the positive aspects, positive emotions. So the associative part of the components is not the rationality. It is emotions. Information or data can greatly influence what attributions are made. Misinformation, lack of information, different interpretation of information, and even too much information all make it difficult to evaluate any given situation. Even many different information. At one extreme is lack of information, at another extreme, too much information. Both of them are inefficient for having good logical reasoning. And misinformation, not correct information. Correct information with the wrong interpretation. Lack of information, no, I have good information, but the information is not correct. It is misinformation. I have good, correct information. I cannot interpret, analyze those good. So misanalyzing or not good analyzing. And finally, I have many information. It is the law of diminishing returns, something like a law of diminishing returns in the economy and in business. And nevertheless, we must evaluate the situation in order to make sense of it. This evaluation is done. Therefore, by selecting the information that supports one view of situation and rejecting or ignoring the information that contradicts that view. It is called sometimes bias. Major intention to gain some results. Major intention to gain some result. It is called bias. And bias is a forbidden part, for example, in research. If you have any bias, you cannot conduct a good research. Why? Because before your assumptions, before you're conducting your research, to analyzing, to gathering information, to data collection, to data analysis, to result, and to discussion about your results, before all of them, you have a bias. You have an intention to gain specific results. You only collect some informations which are supportive for your desirable outcome you want to have at the final stage of your research. So because you are master degree students, and I hope we will see you in DBA course, it is very important to know about the concepts behind the research method, non-biased research method, non-biased gathering information, non-biased data collection or data analysis is very important part also in conflict resolution. The other part is preconceptions. What are preconceptions? Refers to the values, beliefs, past experiences, stereotypes, and assumptions that we all carry. Although most of us accept the phrase seeing is believing. Also, sorry, it is not correct. Seeing is believing. Numerous studies have shown that the reverse is more commonly true, that in fact believing is seeing. You see what you believe, not you believe what you see. You have a filter in your mind. It is called mental syntax. Mental syntax is your mental filter to screening the data. What is the screening unit? Your belief system is a screening unit. We talk about it activating events, belief system, conclusions, or outcomes, or circumstances. First, activating event. What is the screening? The information, many information. What is the screening unit? Your belief system. Screen the data. Only you see what you believe. Not only you believe what you see. And the research shown that, yes, in many, when we are talking about attribution, fundamental attribution errors, we are talking about errors that are fundamental in attributing some observations to the cause and effects. This means that whatever we already believe is what to tend to see. It is something like love. You see some people as love partners that as an external man or woman you see, they are not matched together. How they are, for example, having a good time with each other. And this is true that they don't have any good time. They are not matched together. But they want to see love partner as a proper partner. And finally, after some years, they found that, yes, I was wrong. Other people were right. They said to me, my mother said to me, my friend said to me that it's a good boy, it's a good girl, but not proper for your personality. You are not matched together. So you see what you believe. You hear what you believe. You hear what you are ready to hear. It's a great assumption, as I think, yes, by Anthony Robbins, that you hear only the things you are ready to hear. It is called preconceptions, not conceptions. And this means that whatever, okay. Fortunately, attributions can be changed. Everything can be changed. It is not so easy, yes, but it is possible. As practitioners, we can help to influence parties' attributions by working with or challenging the two elements that form these attributions, namely information and preconceptions. You can work on the information, at the amount of information, lack of information, too much information, information interpretation, and correct or wrong information, and other part preconceptions about the belief system, pre-assumptions about the beliefs that they want interpreting as the interpreting system. We can work. It is something like psychotherapy. When you come with me for CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, at first I want to change your belief system to create some change in your behavior. Because of that, it is called cognitive behavioral therapy. Your tools for creating change is your cognition, your thoughts, your beliefs. But how can I find that change has done or not? I can see your behavior. And summary of attribution is trust model clearly shows us the following. The attributions each party makes in a given situation, including our own, dramatically influence the behavior of each party toward to other. First, two, some attributions maintain trust between the parties, and some not only destroy trust, they also prevent any rebuilding of trust. This is something like unfaithfulness, infidelity in the interpersonal lovely relationships. And attributions are frequently based on incomplete or incorrect information, along with preconceptions and stereotypes, the fixed framework, conceptual framework for understanding the world without any change. Always fixed, consistent, persistent mental syntax are called stereotypes, or sometimes it is called mannerism. And attributions can be changed. How we work with patient attribution will greatly influence the outcome of conflict. And we are going to the strategic direction. What can we do? Personal trust. What is personal trust? Let me come back. What is personal trust? What is your definition of personal trust? Luisa, Payal. Phoebe? We want to talk about personal trust and procedural trust. What is personal trust?
If you trust the person, and procedural trust is if you trust in the process.
What does it mean? Trust to
You have
procedures.
trust into the person you're talking to or having a conflict with.
Take me an example for personal trust and versus procedural trust. What's your example?
Personal is you think he has good characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
And
what about
procedural would
procedural
be.
trust?
What did you say?
What about procedural trust? For example, in COVID-19, President Trump says, trust me, it is a false data, and it is not necessary to mask, facial mask. Some people trust him, some people don't trust him. It's your choice. What is the efficient part of this trust? For example, if I am a president of a country, can I have some recommendations, some comments about the healthy issues? Am I trustable as a person or no? Because I am the president of a country and I have access to deep information about this, for example, COVID-19 as an illness, as a disease, I know that something is behind this disease and you can trust me as a procedure, not as a one person. It is the procedure of democracy. It is the procedure of capitalism. Is my interpretation of personal trust, for example, in this example, is it true or not? How do you think? And also other students, not only you. The major question is, without looking at your book, I want to your own interpretation. After that, we will go to read the book. What is the difference, do you think, about between personal trust and procedural trust? Anything? Kyle is out of talking. Oh, perfect.
Personal trust, I feel like it's more like as a person. Procedural trust would be more of a negotiation type when you're talking to a party and you're making them like trust you. You're trying to tell them the content of the whatever the contract or the deal it is.
Yeah.
And personal will be more like of ourselves, within us.
The basis of trust is based on the characteristic, as Luisa said, characteristics of a person, or no, the features, the traits, the organization, and the procedure based on a one person, or no. For example, how do you think about the basis of trust in a family? It should be personal trust or procedural trust in a family. I should have a trust to my father, or no, I should have to my family as a system, mother to father, father to sibling, sibling to uncle, uncle to aunt, as a system. I should trust them that they will support me and I will support them, or not. It is not procedural. I have one father and I am his son, and we have some trust. We should have some trust together. How do you think? And what is the role of culture here? Is there any difference between, for example, Hispanic culture, Korean and Oriental culture, and white American European culture? Is there any difference for laying on the trust? For example, we know in Oriental cultures, family is very important. Social is very important. Socialization in Japan is meant preparing you to going to the context of society. It is socialization process. When someone is socialized in Japan, it is mean that he or she is not a one person. He is a member of society. In opposition, in America, socialization is when you are socialized, it is mean that you are ready to go and to live for yourself. One
I
concept,
feel
socialization. So,
I feel like if we I can compare, like, let's say the Indian culture. Let's say a simple thing like when they are talking about marriage.
mhm.
For a girl, sometimes, let's say, if after she gets married, she wants a divorce or stuff, she will often be pressurized by the family or something, thinking about the societal norms or what the society will think. What's our respect? What my family is going to be disgraced and this and that. In the
Perfect.
white American culture, I would say it's more of like, it's your freedom. If you don't feel right, just go for it.
Yeah, perfect.
Live your life. I guess it's more of that. I'm, I wouldn't say 100%, but in some cases I have seen both
Yeah,
ways. So
yeah, yeah,
I would
yeah.
say,
Perfect. Any of you, Luisa and Phoebe, any of you about the differences in the last minutes of the session? Okay, let's come here. And personal trust is a set of feelings that defines how comfortable we are taking a given level of risk with a specific person. So we have three components here: comfortability, risk, and a specific person, not all the persons. It is not rational, it's not logical to have a personal trust with everybody. It's about a specific person with the evidence, with the logic behind this trust. This has to do with our judgment of the person's character, integrity, values, and so on. It answers the question, how much do I trust this individual? How much do I trust this individual? It is the basic question for interpersonal trust. For example, some characteristic of personal trust are: it is the strongest form of trust. It is usually based on belief and assumption and less on actual information. So take care, be cautious, because personal trust can carry a higher level of self-deception, because it says sometimes it is not based on the actual information. It is based on pre-assumption and assumptions you have in your mind. For example, I just know that this person can be trusted. I say, why? I don't know, but it's my feeling. It is not based on actual information. Inconsistent behavior may have absolutely no effect on personal trust. For example, I know them and they must have had a very good reason for doing that. With personal trust, parties tend to assume the motives of other person are good. It is based on perceived common values and common interests to a large degree and other things. And the last part is procedural trust, is the trust we place in a structure or process we are involved in, as opposed to a person. For example, parties to a conflict often attempt mediation, when they have very little trust in each other. They need their third party to resolve the conflict because they don't have any trust to each other. They need third party mediation or mediators, very little trust in each other, and may have little experience with the mediator as well. Why? In this case, they are placing their trust in the mediation process itself. Not only they don't have any trust to each other, sometimes they are talking, they are bargaining about the trustability of mediators, even mediators. It is the third party without any judgment, without any bias. But they think that, can I trust the mediators or not? Is it on your side? Is it on my side? I said he or she is a mediator without any bias to which side is better, you or your opposition, the third party or second party. He or she is the third party. He or she is a mediator. But in the highest level of mistrust, you sometimes you see that Sorry, it is not procedural trust, because in procedural trust, it is not important who is the third party. You are trusting to the procedure of resolving the conflict. It is something like legislation. It is not important who is the judge. If you have a good, proper, deep legislation, good laws, good components for legislation, it is not important who is using this legislation, who is the judge. But when legislation is not so powerful, is not so influencer, okay, it is very weak. And after that, it is important that who is using this legislation, who is the judge? Is judge very experienced judge or no? And for example, a new judge. So because of that, sometimes finding the problems in procedural trust is very harder, is much harder than finding problems in personal mistrust. Why? Because in personal mistrust, you have a feeling of trust or you have a feeling of mistrust. It is about your feeling. Ordinary, without any evidence-based rationality, evidence-based logic. In procedural, we are talking about the greater picture of trust, not only for people, about the procedures, about the legislation, about the organizational culture, about the organizational development and structure and other parts. Procedural trust answers the question, how much trust do I have in the process itself, regardless of the individuals involved, regardless of the, for example, judges involved in this court. How much trust do I have in the, for example, process of judging in the legislation? Also, legislation is a very good sample, social sample for you, because you see that in many cases, honestly, it is very important who is the judge. It is not important about the country. It is developing countries like, for example, my country, or developed country like US. It is not important about the country or area of democracy. It is about the fitness, about the goodness of legislation. You see, in America, only with one unique legislation, three different judges have three different conclusions, have three different orders. In those cases, people don't have any good procedural trust, but they say, we cannot trust this procedure, this methodology. Why? Because when changing the manager, changing the leader, changing the judges, the conclusion, the outcome are very different. So we have two types of trust. One, personal trust. Two, procedural trust. Okay, let's go to your quiz for the next, I think we have 12 or 15 minutes. And I am here if there is any question. Payal, next week we have your presentation. Will be you ready? Perfect. Okay. And after that, I think for the week 6, I am not in online, on live. It is online. I will upload the video, and after that, it will be for the week 7. Okay, let's go to week 4 quiz.
Bye. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, Phoebe.
Mm.